And hi, everyone, and welcome to the brand new Race Anywhere Transatlantic Championship, the RATC, powered by Sim3D, here on Absolute Sim Racing. I'm Greg Ginsberg, and with Daniel Handover joining me in the commentary booth, we'll be bringing you the best in GT3 action from some of the world's most storied and challenging circuits. To kick off this inaugural season, we first head 25 miles east of Bologna, Italy, and a circuit that opened in 1953, first hosting motorcycles and then Formula One, with its first non-championship event won in 1963 by Jim Clark. But since then, it has played host to the Italian Grand Prix, the San Marino Grand Prix, and just last year, the Emilia-Romagna Grand Prix. It's played host to some of the grandest victories in the sport and, unfortunately, some of the greatest tragedies. Tonight, we head to the Autodromo Internazionale Enzo e Dino Ferrari, better known as Imola. So, Daniel, first, welcome to Imola and welcome to the RATC. It's great to be working with you for what should be a very exciting season, if not only because we've got packed and stacked field of 60 of the finest GT3 racers, all vying for some very nice end-of-season prizes here.
Absolutely. Welcome, everyone. Thank you for tuning in to what is going to be, as you say, Greg, an absolutely fantastic season. I cannot wait to get going. Qualifying is underway, which we're going to go through in a few moments' time. I mean, Imola, as you say, it's seen some action throughout the years, I think is the best way to put it. It's just a fantastic circuit. So much to go through, so much to... there's so many challenges around what is a relatively short circuit by modern day standards. You've got to think this is a 1 minute 40 lap. So it's in GT cars, it's still a relatively long lap, but in the actual track itself, it's quite short by the more modern tracks that we see today. I mean, realistically, it's just going to be amazing. I cannot wait to get started.
Yeah, nor can I. And as you mentioned, this track, it has so many different challenges to throw at our drivers here. It's got long straightaways. It's got hard braking zones. It's got chicanes aplenty that have been added to this circuit over the years, primarily to slow the drivers down. Lots of elevation change, some off-camber corners, basically everything that a driver is going to need to pull out of their toolkit to set a fast lap. As we have our drivers out for their qualifying right now, as you mentioned, and then in tonight's 75-minute race. It's going to be spectacular here, and we've got cars on course right now looking to set their fast times, and as they do, we've got 3 different classes here this evening. Daniel, we've got, of course, our pro class, and you'll notice that they are identified on our timing tower with the white numbers. We've got our Pro-Am class set with the blue numbers, and then we've got our amateurs. And all of this classification has been done based on each of the drivers' ratings in the iRacing system, their iRatings, and the administrators of the league have gone and, based on essentially their last 3 months of racing, gone and queued them up into each of those 3 different classes. And we'll talk a little bit more about what the drivers who may win at the end of the season, what they may get as prizes as the night goes on.
Absolutely, some cracking prizes up for grabs. Time's coming in nice and early, though. Justin Brunner in the pro category setting a very fast lap from straight out of the bat, a 1:42. Actually, I say that Sean Campbell decided to prove me wrong. So Sean Campbell is now up with a purple first, second, and 5th sector. So Sean Campbell looking very, very fast in the McLaren of all cars. Oh my goodness, it is amazing to see. And if we actually bring up the standings for a second, Greg, let's have a look at the top 3 cars within this grid. I mean, I'm not going to complain about that. 3 McLarens.
I was just going to say 3 McLarens, the fire-spitting McLarens. And, of course, in this field, we've got many different manufacturers. Of course, we've got the McLarens. I see a number of the brand-new Lamborghini Huracan Evo GT3s in the field. We've got the Porsche 911 GT3s as well, the BMW M4s, you name it, the Mercedes AMG GT3s, pretty much the whole gamut of GT3 entries available on the iRacing platform are here racing this evening. We've got a number of the Audi R8 GT3s racing as well. I was a little surprised to see them out there. They don't exactly have in the latest iteration the greatest of reputations, or they have the reputation of maybe trying to kill your driver. But you know, a great spread of different chassis that we're going to see running here in the RATC this season.
I mean, do you know what? It's great to see. It's great to see people being able to choose their own cars. Look at this. We've got a Mercedes as well. This is Alex Treba going now up into P2 provisionally, and he's actually got a fair good gap as well. Bear in mind, he is he currently pole position in the Pro-Am category because he is with a blue highlight. You can see actually the blue number indicated as well, so it gives you a little bit more of a visual cue to tell you which class the drivers are in. And then also, we'll be bringing up in a few moments the actual class display, so you better see at the top of the timing tower the leaders in the respective classes. But the Pro-Am, I mean, Alex Treba setting a very good lap time indeed, although Tyler Campbell only a couple of tenths behind, less than a couple of tenths behind.
Yeah, only about 4 tenths back from Trieber, second fastest right now in the Pro-Am, third fastest Frederic Lavoie, your third fastest in the number 33 BMW with a fast time of 1:43.24. So only about a half a second off of Trieber's time right now in the Pro-Am class. And if we go and take a look at the amateur class, the AM class, the drivers with the numbers you'll see there in red, fastest driver on track right now in qualifying. And again, we're giving all these drivers 3 cracks at this, 3 flying laps in order to put in a fast lap for today's grid. And the fastest is Errol Yerkskoy in his Lamborghini Huracan, fast time of 1:44.53. Second fastest, also in the Lamborghini, Mark Scott, driver of the number 67 machine, with a 1:44.58. And third fastest, quite a bit down the overall order right now, surprisingly enough, in a Lamborghini Huracan, it's Steven Martinez with a 1:45.21.
The Lamborghinis have really taken over. It's a good what we see is like a third of the grid is Lamborghinis, and then we've got that's the odd occasional Audi. I'm genuinely surprised at how many McLarens we have. There's 4 McLarens, and there's almost, I'm just having a count, but there's only there's only 4 Audis. Bear in mind. So we are seeing as well people now. You'll see that there aren't as many people out now on circuit, and that's because they've all come to run their own laps. So the laps that they've done, we've got the rather fantastic looking BMW M4. Still can't quite get used to that front end. I'm sorry.
No, I don't think anybody can.
It's a bit of a it's a cracking look car. Liveries as well. It's what I love about these liveries as well. Fantastic looking liveries that we're seeing from everyone. It's absolutely fantastic. And throughout the season as well, we're going to get more used to those as we go. But for the moment, I believe we have Sean Ryan is finished his lap, and the person else that has just finished their lap also is Alejandro Yaramilio. Again, apologies as well for these name pronunciations to start with. We will get used to it more as we go. But that is it. With a minute still to spare, Greg, everyone's done their 3 laps.
Yeah, very quick. I was very surprised to see that go by so quickly here as our drivers are going to go and kind of get a handle of themselves. They're going to have about 10 minutes to practice before we have our drivers head out on track for their 75-minute race, and that is going to be what we are all interested in seeing, that 75-minute endurance race between 60 cars on track. And I think that's one thing that we haven't really talked about yet so far, Daniel, is that with all of these cars on track, it's going to make for some very difficult racing here. As you mentioned, a fairly short track, only about 5 kilometers in length, a little bit over 3 miles in length here, not the widest circuit. And there are certainly places, as most of our drivers are going to need to take, and actually all of our drivers, they are required to take 2 pit stops during this race. I can think of at least one place on track where they're going to have lots and lots of traffic and a lot of congestion, and that is at the end of the front straight as drivers are leaving the pits going down into turn 1, a prime passing zone here at Imola. It's certainly going to create problems with congestion for our drivers.
Yeah, it certainly will. This is one of the things you've really got to take into consideration. You've got to be nice and cautious as well. Bear in mind, yeah, as you say, Imola, it's an old track as well. It is an old circuit. It's narrow. Okay, as you were saying and alluding to there, Greg, as well. It's going to concertina around regardless whether you like it or not going into the first chicane. So you've got to take that into consideration. It's a long race. 75 minutes wouldn't, it's still classed as a sprint, but at the same time, though, with these two pit stops, strategy plays a part into it. So you've got to make sure that you take it nice and easy, especially in this pre-qualifying sector. You've got to make sure that you get to know not only yourself in terms of your ability, but also you've got to make sure you get used to what's happening around you as well, and what's happening with everyone else. That's the key thing there as well.
That is absolutely the key. And of course, these drivers, as this season continues on, and it is a 10-week season, drivers will be able to drop one race over the course of the season in that points battle. But I suspect here in the very first, and this is technically not part of the season standings, that will start next week at Daytona International Raceway. But I think tonight there is going to be a lot of, how shall we say this, a lot of trying to figure out exactly what your competitors will race like. I think as we have these three different classes and a very large number of drivers on track, all with varying capabilities and abilities, it's going to be a lot to try and figure out who you can race. Not only trying to figure out where drivers may have issues around this course, but trying to figure out how you can race certain drivers. Of course, the key here is to be able to finish the race. So, you certainly want to be safe. You'd have to make sure, in watching what other drivers do, that you give quarter when you should, you don't give quarter when you shouldn't, and you make it to the checkered flag.
Yeah, 100%. To finish first you must finish. You've got to make sure that you're putting yourself in a position where you're not giving yourself any opportunities. I mean, this is, if there's any time to explore the limits of what your car can do in the track condition, I think this is the one to do it. This is the race, because it is pre-qualifying. You've got the opportunity where it doesn't really make all that much of a difference. You don't want to annoy any one of your fellow competitors, but at the same time, you're in a position where you have the ability to push that a little bit harder and to explore, so that when you do come to the first round, you're prepared as much as you can be. Because it's all well and good being able to push at the limit for a lap, but with the pace that we've seen from some of these drivers, I mean, Sean Campbell, Justin Brewer, Dave Menino, these are quick drivers. It's more so a flat-out sprint. There's no conservation to a certain degree.
No, not at all, and that is exactly what you're going to see. You're going to see a sprint race now, as I think probably the big thing that you're going to find, and as we talked earlier, is one, how to navigate traffic here, but also working in that pit stop strategy, because you are going to have to take two pit stops. How much do you fill on each stop, and knowing when to drop into the pits. And you always try to then either A, before you go in, try and get that one or two flying laps before you drop into the pits for your pit stop, and then hope that you come out on track in an open place. With 60 cars on track here, I don't know if there can be any expectation of getting a clean out lap, for example, that I don't know how much strategy on a short track like this is going to actually come into play, because I think it's going to be very much as they say, a crapshoot as to when, what type of traffic you're going to encounter when you come back out on track after not just one pit stop, but two pit stops tonight.
Yeah, you've got to be a bit savvy, I think, with how you approach the pit stops. And I said, I mean, again, testing. It's all about the testing here. You possibly have an opportunity to try something a little bit different just to see how it goes. And then you've also got an opportunity to, again, there's the possibilities are endless to a certain degree, but you've got to make sure that you're confident. That's another key thing as well, is being confident in what you're going to do and confident in the strategy. Because if you do have that little bit of doubt, well, that generally will start to manifest itself and then start to snowball, and the snowball effect, and before you know it, you're thinking about it too much, you're overthinking, you have a mistake out on track, and before you know it, you're 15 seconds down on where you thought you were going to be.
Yeah, that is always a challenge here, that you need to be able to keep a clear head as the race continues on, and maybe certain things don't go your way, but you need to be able to reset and get a good frame of mind in order to attack the track and attack the other drivers here as the race goes on. All right, so it looks as though, again, I don't believe we have any of the drivers out on track here after our qualifying, and we are scheduled, I believe, to roll off at, is it 8:40 p.m., I believe, here, Daniel? So we'll have cars heading out on track in just a few moments for the pace lap. My understanding is that they were supposed to have about a 10-minute practice session here prior to the start of this race, but it doesn't appear as though that is happening here. So again, we should hopefully see cars start to grid up in just a few moments.
Yes, absolutely. Sorry, Greg. Apologies.
No worries. So in the meantime, as we have a little bit of dead time now, both Daniel and I talked about this great prize package that we have for our season champions, actually our top 3 finishers in each one of the 3 classes, and it is presented by our title sponsor. That is Race Anywhere, and a spectacular prize package. If you win your class and take that season championship, you are going to be awarded an amazing Pro Sim Rigs PSR1 rig, and it's designed to provide maximum flexibility as you evolve your driving and experience. And it is a great, looks like an 80/20 sim rig, and definitely something that I know I wouldn't mind having at the house here. But unfortunately, I'm talking about racing. I'm not out there running the car. If you finish second in any one of the 3 classes, you will get a bespoke rig mat brought to you by Pro Sim Rigs to put underneath your rig and even out any of those irregularities in the floor in which you have your rig. Very nice piece of kit right there. And if you finish in third, you will win a Pro Sim Rigs t-shirt. Again, all of that is provided by our title sponsor for the driver championship, and that is Race Anywhere. You can find out more about them at raceanywhere.co.uk.
Absolutely fantastic prizes. What we're going to do, everyone, is we're going to take a very, very short break. Make sure you don't go anywhere, because we will be back and we will get this race underway. It will be 3 or 4 minutes. We'll get everything all sorted and ready, and then we'll be able to take you through the pre-qualifying race here at Imola for the RATC. Stick around.
All right, and we are back with the brand new Race Anywhere Transatlantic Championship powered by Sim3D here on Absolute Sim Racing. I'm Greg Ginsburg along with Daniel Handover, and we've got things back under control here in our pre-qualifying week, and we have a few moments of practice remaining here from Imola, and once the drivers finish up with this 10-minute practice, we are going to jump in, and they're going to get gridded up, and we're going to go racing here from Imola. And we've just now hit that 10-minute mark. The checkered flag is out on the practice session, and you can see now the cars are starting to head back into the pits. And so let's go, and we'll run down the starting grid here. Our top 10 cars, let's see here. And what we're going to be doing is we're going to be gridding up by class. And so we're going to first have our pro cars, our pro class cars, then we're going to have our pro-ams, and then the amateurs. And so let's start off with the pros, and your pole sitter from TechSense Fritzy Motorsports Racing, it's Sean Campbell in the number 26 machine. Justin Brunner in the Inex Racing number 2 machine will start on the outside of the front row. Dave Menona will start third in the SRT Esport machine, with Sean Ryan starting in fourth. Harry Wills will start on the inside of row number 3 with Nathan Olson representing Team Olson right next to him. Then we've got Ryan Kaprowski in the Riddle Rocket Racing entry, and say that 10 times real fast. He's driving the number 61 machine. Then we've got Derek Ekmanis in the PPR Motorsports machine, Esports machine, starting 8th. Then we've got Isaac Snyder and Taylor Lane making up row number 5. And then we're going to jump over to the Pro-Am field, where we've got starting 11th overall. It is going to be Alex Treber in the number 50 FTR Esports machine, and his teammate Tyler Campbell in the number 6 entry will start right next to him. Then we've got Frederick Wavois, who will start in row number 2 of the Pro-Am field in the number 33 Alt Racing machine. Lyden Lee in the Verve Racing Team Mint entry will start next to him. Then
sorry to cut you off, Greg, but we're just about to get the start going. As much as we'd love to go through the grid, it's already kicking off.
Yeah, short pace lap there as the field is coming around. Didn't even notice that coming out of the last Ravazza onto the front straight. They're in that start zone. Our pole sitter, Sean Campbell, he starts to accelerate, hits the start-finish line, and we have green flag racing out. Justin Brunner, Dave Meneno right back behind, actually side by side. The BMW, Sean Ryan, comes up right next to Menona as they go through the first chicane there, through Variante Tamburello and on towards Villeneuve, as we get ready now for our second group to start. And that is the Pro-Am class. Alex Treber leads the field with Tyler Campbell running second, then Lavoie sitting in third. Right back behind him, we've got Lyden Lee and Wilson Brewer all in a line now as they go into the first chicane, and it is already nose to tail racing here as we now take a look at our amateurs, starting with Errol Uriskoy, your pole sitter, with Steven Martinez lined up right behind him, the 2 Lamborghinis. Then we've got Mark Scott in the third of the Lamborghinis in that AM class. Our first non-Lamborghini, it's Jonathan Whitmoyer in his Audi, right back behind them with Travis Kelper, Michael Fowler, and Matt Alvis. All in a row. Looks like the whole field now straightening out as they get ready to set up for the very first chicane here, Daniel.
Absolutely. Cracking start from everyone. Everyone got through cleanly. This is exactly what we were talking about, wasn't it, Greg? Getting through cleanly is the exact key thing. You need to make sure that you're controlled. You're allowing the car to settle, allowing the tyres to warm up. You know, it's not won on the first lap, but it can very well be lost. Bit close as we go now up into the Pro-Am category once again. Currently now Casey Metzger doing a very respectable P5 at this moment in time. But bear in mind, Lyndon Lee and Wilson Brewer up ahead. They might start battling a while. Imola's a great track in a sense because it allows you to keep with people, because you've got that really long straight going down at the last corner, which is the Pro-Am guys are coming through now, down into turn 1. So this is a really good. Someone's gone off as well. What has happened
Yeah,
there?
that looks like it might have been Ureski, who was our pole sitter in the amateur class, may have gone off. Let's take a look here.
I wonder what happened. It must have happened a while ago, to be fair, because this is coming down into the last two. There we go.
Yes, this is coming into the first Ravazza. He goes wide, drops a wheel there into the AstroTurf. It's a little bit off camber there, and just had the rear end walk around on him. That moves Steven Martinez up into the lead of our Pro-Am field as we jump back now over that moves Martinez up to the lead of the amateurs as we jump now over and back a little bit. Let's see here. On board now with looks like we're looking at Andrew Hewitt in the Gulf liveried McLaren in a nice battle there with Sammy Lackey in the number 5 machine, and that is the battle for 11th in the amateurs as we look back, and already now Hewitt opening up a good gap back to those entries to Lackey, Hurlitzke, and Plaisance as well a little bit further back.
Yeah, there's a bit of a trend. Look at that we just saw there as we come on. A big gaggle of cars here in the Pro-Am Category. You got that you do indeed have. You got Lackey, Plaisance, Casey, Vols as well. You got Urexoy that's going to have to work back up the field. Bear in mind, he has got a bit of time. He's got an hour and 15 with those 2 pit stops. So he has got time here, but still, he's got to make sure he's nice and careful. I believe that is Alejandro Jaramillo. There he is. You just saw him just there. I wonder what's happened. That was going into... Where was that going? Is it the double right-hander? It is. Or what's it going to be? Is it going to be a tap of the grass? I reckon it's going to be... Oh, no.
He comes all the way down the inside, and a little bit of contact there, and around they go. And that, again, the double right-hander over at Aqua Minerale.
Aqua Minerale is a tricky one. I don't think the contact really instigated that spin. I think it was just unfortunately trying to recover themselves, getting on the power with the AstroTurf. With cold tyres, it doesn't tend to work. You've got to be so careful. So it's really something you've got to watch out for. Daniel Tenorio is having a bit of a look up the inside. He's actually made the move on John Cooper. So good stuff there from Tenorio. He is making some moves. That's a position gain now into the top 10 for him. There's battles all the way through the field, which is what I'm excited to see. And again, as soon as everyone pits, it's just going to close up again. Harry Wills, I think, actually made a move. I can't quite see how long ago it was, but I think Harry Wills did make a move for Sean Ryan for the top 5 spot in the pro category. So here is Harry Wills. I think wise because Sean Campbell had a little bit... Ryan, apology, had a bit of an off. Yeah,
it looked like he had an off and perhaps had a slowdown penalty there. Generated by iRacing. So that, as you mentioned, moves Wills in his Mercedes-AMG GT3 up into 5th. Sean Ryan in the BMW now actually falls back behind McManus, falls back to 7th. He's lost 3 positions here in just the first few laps.
It's a shame, isn't it? But, like I said, you've got a while. There's still an hour and 10 minutes left to go. There's lots of things that can happen. So you've got to make sure, just keep yourself composed. Keep yourself in a position where you're, I think, focusing now. I think the best thing here is just to focus on what's happening now ahead and what's happening moving forward. That you can't focus on that incident behind you. You've just got to get your head down, crack on. The closest battle that we've got as well, I think, are in the Pro-Ams. And I think this is going to be... This is what we're talking about with the slipstream. Porsche versus Mercedes. Last of the late breakers. Linda Lee goes up the inside, possibly. I'd say what he was going to get hold of there as well. But I think Frederick Lavoie
popped over the sausage curbs and ends up... he still manages to hold off Kaluga, at least for the moment there in the Porsche.
Porsche sounds absolutely fantastic. If I could have any car in this, I just love a flat 6. Whoa! Lavoie's had a crash
ahead of him, and that was Lavoie, I think, in the BMW that went around just ahead of those 2 drivers, right ahead of Lee and Kaluga.
I tell you what, I think Lee and Kaluga are both going to need some new race suits after that, because that would have been a very... It's always a bit tricky because you never know. I mean, the best thing, a friend of mine who races quite often in the real world, he said the best thing to do in that situation is to drive flat out. He said don't try and avoid it because that's when you will have an accident. You probably know this as well, Greg, from real life commentary and real life racing as well.
Yes, well, that comes right out of the eternal words of Dick Trickle and
Yeah.
Day. Actually, it wasn't Dick Trickle, but from Days of Thunder. You just put your foot down and drive right through. And in my experience in the real life race car, exactly the same thing. As soon as you check up, as soon as you tense up. That is when the car is going to go around. What you need to do is just keep those, as you do under race pace, you keep those steady, smooth inputs. You can't overreact to something happening ahead of you. You just have to be able to look through the incident to where you need and want the car to be. As we stay online here with Lee and Trieber as well. Trieber in the number 50 Mercedes. Lee in the number 69 Porsche. And this is right now the battle for 5th in the Pro-Am class.
Absolutely. We've got a crash here from Don Hunter that's had a moment. This is going now into turn 1. He's going to be snagging brakes. He's getting quite close to the exit. Might just be outbraking himself, possibly. Oh, rear rotation on the brakes. Easy to do, especially with the Porsche. It's got a lot of weight over the rear, and it's got hardly any weight over the front. So if it gains some momentum, it's almost game over.
Yeah, and you saw there where he entered the corner maybe a little bit too much to the inside. He had a little room. I think he had a little bit more room to get out to the curbing driver's right and open that corner up. And so when he got out of the throttle, there certainly had put much more load on the rear wheels, and around it went. As we now jump up to our overall leader, this is Sean Campbell, driver the number 26. McLaren, and you can see the gap that he has now opened up to Justin Brunner and Dave Minona, as they now are a number of car lengths back. Actually, looks like a good battle going on for second right now, but early on in this race, again, less than 10 minutes have expired so far in this 75-minute battle. Sean Campbell, our pole sitter, has managed to walk away, and he's running lap times consistently between 0.3 and a half a second faster than our second and third place running McLarens here. As we take a look at Taylor Lane in the number 32 machine, currently now running in 10th position, quite a bit back from the rest of the pro field. He dropped a number of spots there with that off.
He did. It's a bit of a shame. Oh, speaking of offs as well, Mark Sigelkow, he's just had an off as well going through the first chicane. So that's going to cost him 1 position, possibly even 2, because I wonder if Frederic Lavoie trying to make some positions up from his earlier spin. He makes the move back, though. I think, to be fair, Sigelkow didn't really... There's no point defending that. You're already going to be down on the straight. There's literally no point. Absolutely no point at all. So he did well there. Regroup. He's got some pace. Try and get it back on the next time around. So good.
Exactly.
Good
although he's still looking a little loose coming as he went through Tosa. He started to look a little loose there. Yeah, again, just regroup. Long race. Don't try to win it all in one corner. And as you said, there was no sense in defending, given his lack of pace coming out of that spin. All right, as we jump back on board right now, this is the battle for the lead in the amateur class. In the AMs, we're on board right now with the 67 Lamborghini of Mark Scott. He's just back from Steven Martinez in the number 53 entry. Remember, Martinez took the lead when our pole sitter Yurskoy ended up spinning on lap number 1. And you can see the amateurs, they're all grouped together still, but they are starting to make their way up to the rear end of our Pro-Am field. And that might complicate things just a little bit for Scott, who has really good pace here against Martinez.
Yeah, I think you've got to take into consideration, obviously, the cars around you and in the different classes, because you could actually use it to your advantage, and it could also be a bit of a disadvantage as well. It's not going to be too long before we start to see this more and more as we go through. This is the battle now going through for P6 in class in the AM category here. You've got, this is Fredriksson, Kepler, and I think Folkold is a little bit further down. So again, keep an eye. There is Cole that just goes by now in the Mercedes, but Kelper, Fredrickson, and this is Whitmoyer as well that's in the Audi at the front of this little mini battle here. I think everyone's just sort of like, again, biding their time. This is, as we were talking about earlier on, a perfect opportunity to just allow yourself to settle in, to see where everyone is, to see where your opponents are, where they're a bit quicker, where they're slower. You know, it's such a key thing. It's a mind game as well. And again, Greg, I'm sure you'll agree with me on this. You know, having and understanding where your opponents are quicker, whether they're slower, are they faster in the corner, are they faster on corner exit? You know, this is all very, very helpful for yourself.
Absolutely.
You know,
yeah, without a doubt, over the course of a long race like this, to look for tendencies in different spots here. You know, now again, you know, with almost 20 corners here at Imola, you know, it's a lot to keep in your noggin there. You know, to try and remember what the tendencies are of not just one driver, but maybe 3 or 4 drivers or 5 drivers that you encounter over the course of the race. But you're always looking for what their weaknesses are, where perhaps they are a little stronger than you, maybe perhaps where they're a little weak. Do they enter a corner? Maybe do they apex a little bit early? Does it look like they leave the door open going into a corner that might be an advantage for you? These are all the things that you have to file away in that virtual Rolodex in order to affect, you know, to have a successful outing. And that's what all of these drivers are doing. Now, the other thing here, Daniel, is we have driver spinning off. I believe that is that Sousa, I believe that, not Sousa, Soska, pardon me, that just went off in his Lamborghini. Let's take a look at the replay here as he's side by side with, was it Jaramillo here, and that entry goes a long way off it. I guess that's the, having anti-lock braking would be helpful there. Yeah. He went a long way off, but was carrying a lot of speed, though. As he has recovered now, he has now fallen back into 13th in the AM category, and just ahead of him now, he's got two Pro-Am drivers, Lavoie, who was gone around earlier, as well as Jaramillo, that he's going to have to make up ground on.
Yeah, indeed. It's something that, again, it's still early enough in the race where it's not too much of an issue. As long as you've got pace, you'll be able to obviously maintain that position moving forward. Harry Wills is trying to defend and doing a very good job at the moment from, this is Derek Ekmanis that's currently behind. And I'll tell you what, though, Ekmanis is looking very, very racy. Tries to have a look around the outside. Nothing happening there, though. Again, this is where you've got to be, you know, a bit more mind games as well. Just put your car in a position. You're never going to make the move. You're too far back, or you've got to be so committed. This could be it, though. Ekmanis, he goes up the inside. Is it going to be Harry Wills? Has to leave the space, but he's going to try and pin it around the outside. There's a good amount of grip if you can keep it. He does seem to manage to hold a bit of pace, but I think the Lamborghini may have the legs. And you know what, Harry Wills, no, he said flashed him. I'm guessing that would be a no. Don't worry about it. There's the move. Let's crack on. I think good teamwork there, I think, as well, with inter teams.
Yeah, exactly. And you know, you look right back behind him, and we had Sean Ryan in the BMW there, also looking at opportunities there. You know, I'd like to say there's nothing better than having 2 cars race ahead of you side by side, because it puts a big hole in the air and it allows you to make up a lot of ground. The problem is that especially on this track, where you do have a lot of rather tight chicanes and the track surface is not very wide, there aren't a lot of places with that you can go, and you pretty much have to let that battle ahead of you play out, as looks like another car had gone off.
That was Ekmanis had to slow down.
Ekmanis and the Lamborghini that had gone off just ahead of Sean Ryan's BMW.
Yeah, again, it's one of those things. I just had a look at that. I was like, Harry Wills, I mean, to be fair, again, you know, played it perfectly. You know, this is where, again, you don't necessarily have to continue to race with people. If there's a position to be had, let them pass. If you're, you know, at the last lap, obviously, you want to defend for all your life. But at an early stage of the race, I mean, really, you've got to ask yourself, you know, what's the point in racing? It's exactly what Harry Wills did. You know, as the car went by, it was like, flash him, said, no, there's your move, there's a corner, come back to the race line, off you go. So you've got to, you know, there are stages within a race that you've got to work with your opponent, you know, and that was exactly one of those that we saw.
Yeah, and, you know, it when you see somebody getting very aggressive very early in the race, you know, that is one of those things that you sometimes have to do, is you yourself will dial it back and essentially let your competitor overdrive the car. And and we're seeing that in many instances here already, where making up early spots seems to be the goal for a number of drivers, and and perhaps they are putting a little bit more load on the vehicle than need be. And I think also part of this a little bit, Daniel, is all of these drivers, they had the opportunity up until I believe midnight last night to swap chassis, and I was going and looking online to see the number of vehicle manufacturer swaps, and there were a number of changes just in the last day. And it's quite possible that some of these drivers perhaps just don't have a lot of... Oh, as we have two cars getting together right now, two of the Lamborghinis. I think that's Herlitzka, and that's is that Ertskoy who was along with them? Yeah, who was again our pole sitter in the AM class, and lots and lots of issues there as we follow Herlitzka try to get that car back on track, get it back under control.
Yeah, let's have a look at
the replay here.
Yeah, I think the replay, I mean, there was a bit of contact. I mean, that rejoin from Herlitzky was it was out of his, I think it was out of his control really, because the car gripped up naturally on the right hand side, but he got two wheels over on the right. And
yeah, he was already over the curbing. Drivers left there. There was
what's a lunge?
Not a lot of grip.
No, like I said, not a lot of grip. It's something that you've got to be a little bit. Yeah, it's a shame. It is one of those things. It's a very best of a bad situation. Is only one of them had an incident. Both could have obviously easily gone off. I think the contact as well, it's a little bit tricky. You're going three wide into what is a narrow circuit, and going especially in what seems like, because you got that little kink left going before into the braking zone of the first chicane. It feels like it tightens up as well. It doesn't. Yes. But it feels like it does when you're actually driving the circuit. Does. Like I said, it's one of those things. It's deceiving, isn't it? How it can look so different to what we're looking at it from the cameras compared to what we're seeing actually when you're driving the circuit itself.
Absolutely, and and again, some of it can be just a little, and for right where these drivers are exiting right here as an example, just a little bit of change in camber, having the track go to a negative camber just as you're exiting a corner, so that it doesn't, you're not necessarily tightening things up, but you have the rear grip from the car kind of disappear, or at least dissipate slightly just when you don't want it to. Great move right there as we watch now as the BMW of Lavoie, who's again trying to make his way back up through the field after some early offs here, gets around Andy Hewitt, and Hewitt goes around in the McLaren.
Oh, and, no.
And was that goodness. Fredrickson, I think, that he got together with him there? Is that's problematic. Let's take a look at the replay here.
I think it might actually be. No, it wasn't. I thought. No, Harry had his own had his own off. I wonder. Let's see, looking at it from a different angle. So
here we go.
I mean, I wonder who it is. I genuinely wonder who it was, actually, to be perfectly honest. That is a McLaren. That's just McLaren trait all over. It's literally just it. Fellow McLaren. Oh, no. Oh, dear. Hewitt, that's a shame. Oh, dear. That's not good. I'm trying to think who that was.
I believe that was...
It wasn't Sean Campbell, was it? Oh, my God, it was Sean Campbell, I think.
I believe it was Sean Campbell, who was at one point our leader. Yeah.
Oh.
Oof.
That's game over.
You can see there the number one sitting in the windshield there. He was our leader up until that moment. He is now in the pits and trying to get some repairs done to that car, no doubt.
Absolutely. That's such a gut-wrenching feeling for both drivers there. That is a shame. Again, it's one of those things you've just got to be nice and vigilant as well. You've got the relative, vision as well. It's always one of those things. It's always better just to keep it back a little bit and to hold off. Make sure that there's no one around. I mean, to be fair, there was a good gap, and that's one of the instances where, unfortunately, no matter how much you try and avoid it, sometimes it just does not go your way. To be perfectly honest,
exactly, it closes quickly. Exactly. All right, as we jump back on board right now. here. This is the battle for the lead in the Pro-Am class with Tyler Campbell and Wilson Brewer. Brewer in the Audi gets around for a moment, gets around Tyler Campbell, but they are nose to tail. Look at this race here as we are just about 20 minutes into the 75-minute race as our two leaders in the Pro-Am side by side as they go through. Looks like is that coming into the Alta as they start to make their way around. And it looks like the Audi, at least for the moment, has taken control. That is Wilson Brewer in the number 62 machine.
Good move. Very, very good move. Very well calculated. Very well settled as well. Wasn't too much pushing as well. This is the thing, you know, there wasn't too much aggressive driving there. It was just calculated. It wasn't aggressive. It wasn't pushy, but it was assertive where the car was positioned, and that was what gave. That was what got the move there. The fact that it was calculated. It wasn't a I think Harry Wills has had another off. We're going to see if we can get a bit of a replay of that. Harry Wills is going to absolutely love me for all the replays we're getting, but he's got some airtime, so I don't think he's all going to mind that much. This is actually still Tyler Campbell for some reason. Apologies. And let's see if we can get... This is Harry Wills having a moment going through into the second to last corner. Oh, he gets tapped.
Oh,
he gets tapped from number 9.
By the number 5 machine, looks like.
The number 5 or the number 9? I think it was number 9 of Sean Ryan, possibly. Courier, well, let's slow it down. Yes,
you're right.
9.
Yep, you're right. That was the number 9 of Sean Ryan, the Energy Storm Racing BMW.
Absolutely. So, yeah, a bit of a show. I don't think Harry will be too impressed with that one. But, like I said, this is the race where, if anything that's going to happen, let's hope it is just in this race because it doesn't mean all that much. Treba versus Lee going through. This isn't Treba versus Lee. This is Treba versus Metzger. Lamborghini versus Mercedes. Who is going to come out on top at the moment? It is Alex Treba. That was a very, very good move indeed. So, Treba manages to get ahead of the Lamborghini for P10. So fantastic stuff indeed again, well calculated. A little bit of good move as well from and good positioning from Metzger. He gave a little bit of a squeeze, but not enough, not too much that any contact was made.
Exactly, just a hair between them as the Mercedes went into the chicane and very clean, very close racing there. As we jump back now and we're on board with the Porsche of Don Hunter. Currently sitting 13th in the Pro-Am. He's got Mark Scott just ahead of him there in the number 67 machine. As they come through, and the 67 machine, that is, I believe, your leader in the amateur class with Steven Martinez in the red, white, and blue Lamborghini, trailing just behind. So that is that Porsche sitting right in the middle for the battle of the battle for the lead in the AM class.
You've got to be cautious here because, I mean, realistically, if I was obviously Martinez in the car behind the Lamborghini, I would want to be getting past as quick as I can. The problem is as well, you know, if anything, Don Hunter, if the pace isn't quite there at this current moment in time, then what should happen realistically is, again, it doesn't have to, obviously, because you're in different classes. You know, you're on the same lap, doesn't need to be, but it's just something that Don Hunter should be a little bit more, should be just aware of. You know, if there is a bit of a battle, and if he does feel that at this moment in time Martinez is quicker, if a move is made, I don't really think it should be contested all that much. In fact, here could very well possibly the move. No, not going to be this time around.
Across the nose there. Yeah.
That was a lunge and a half. Porsche's got good drive. This is the thing with the Porsche.
And it looked like the Porsche might have seen him at just the last moment. But I was going to say here that, you know, Don Hunter, he does have Mike Kulaga just a couple, not all that far ahead, just ahead of Mark Scott there. And, you know, he's in a battle for position as well.
Yeah, absolutely. No, it's a fair point. This is the tail, you know, the tale of two halves. It's the glass is either half empty or half full for both of these drivers here because they're trying to battle with each other in a way, right. But they're also trying to obviously keep up with their respective people. I think unfortunately what they've both done is successfully just hold each other up because we've seen how the gap extend quite heavily. So this is just, I don't really think helping either at this point. If anything, they need to just work together and try and move forward both together. I tell you what, I think that Metzger has lost a position now. He's actually lost a position a while back by the looks. Oh, sorry, that was Treba, but he's now being pressured by Lyndon Lee for the final place on the podium. And he might.
And you can see Metzger already getting
he's got off.
already running a little defensive, and it doesn't bode well for him as he hops over the curbing. That is, I believe, was that over at Tosa? Over at no, I'm sorry, that was coming out of the last Ravazza. There, yeah, as he popped over the curb there, gives up the position to Lyndon Lee. Now, and that is certainly a problem. And I believe Metzger now, as he went around, as we have another driver coming around now, the BMW there. Looks as though Brent Bravata, who had been mired back in some of our a little bit further back of the field, he is now making up some ground very close to Metzger, as is Dan Tenorio.
Yeah, this is where drivers are now starting, like they're finding their feet, finding their ground. Sean Ryan's actually catching up to Nathan Olsen. The gap's only half a second between those two drivers. Apologies, that's Sean Ryan and Derek Ekmanis. So keep an eye out for that battle coming forward. So it's close, but it's not close enough yet for the Lamborghini to make a move on the BMW. And I'm just having another quick look. I mean, Urexoy making some position. Yeah, as you were saying, this is where now drivers start to... they find their feet now, I think. Tyres are scrubbed in. The track is nice and rubbered in now at this point as well, as we're halfway through. 30 minutes in nearly, so nearly halfway through. So, yeah, drivers are now going to start to feel a little bit more at home, I think, as we see Sean Ryan now come into the pits for the first round of pit stops. Interesting stuff.
I was just going to say, starting to see a number of drivers come into the pits now and starting those first pit cycles. I think we have Dave Minona in the pits as well. In his Lamborghini, we had a number of drivers from the AM class come in. We had Kyle Herlitzka, who we saw had that spin earlier, Andy Hewitt as well, and of course we had Sean Campbell, who had that unfortunate crash early on, or not that early on, but when we had another car spin around. Oh, and here we go, the number 95 machine. Once again, that was Harry Wills. Daniel, he's not going to enjoy the amount of prime camera time that he is getting tonight.
He's got a good amount of airtime, isn't he? It's just unfortunately the airtime that I don't think he would be overly happy with. But you know, at the end of the day, like I said, push the boundaries, find where the limit is, and find where you think the limit is, because this is the one opportunity where you've got to really, really not lose out on anything. Blake Scott is actually having a bit of a battle with Mark Sigelkow at this moment of time. I think the battle was sort of done and dusted. I don't really think, I tell you why, because Blake Scott actually had a bit of an off. So let's see if we can have a look at that. So here we go.
Both of those drivers had just completed their first pit stop.
Cold tires.
Yeah, exactly. They had no heat in the tires as they rejoined, and there you go, quick little off there, but recovered pretty well, but did lose the position there to Mark Sigelkow. That being the battle for 12th in the Pro-Am class.
Well, it's 12th at the moment, obviously, but then once pit stops, it could very well change after the first. This is the thing. What I also like about these sort of races here with mandatory pit stops is until you have the last pit stop, you're always second guessing. You're always trying to work out who's going to go where and who's going to be where, which I really find an enjoyable part because it keeps the tension high. You know, a bad pit stop or a bad pit entry, well, if the gaps are as close as what we have seen, I mean, that could cost you one, possibly even two positions. You know, if you lose 3 seconds in the pit stop. So, you know, there's not only the on-track driving element of it, but then you've got to be controlled. You've actually got to be you've got to be on the ball when it comes to the pit stops as well. So there's lots of things to, to consider, especially with some of these when we've got the pit stop. Sigelkow is actually having to defend probably at this moment in time not at this moment in time, but maybe in that, in the very, very near future, because Blake Scott, he was ahead of him originally, remember? He did have that off. So pace is now starting to come back, especially with these new tyres now. And the tyres are now starting to rubber in. Take about 3 or 4 laps to properly warm up and scrub in. But once they're there, then you can really, really start to lean on them.
That's right. And, I had the question whether or not these drivers would consider taking a set of tires and whether they would take it on the first pit stop or at all and just run the entire race. And I think we've got our answers. A lot of the drivers that have already come in for their stops are taking at least a set of right tires with this counterclockwise course, predominantly right-hand turns. as we are having a number of drivers, and it looks like the majority of the field now has made their way and either taken their first pit stop already or have it underway. We've got in the Pro-Am, we've got probably in the Am, we've got Lackey, Suska currently in the pits. Let's see here, but I think at this point the majority of our Pro class have already made their way into the pit lane. A few stragglers in the Pro-Ams are just finishing up their pit stops here, but you can see that the majority of the drivers have pit lane time somewhere in the 1 minute range, so certainly an indication that they're taking tires.
Yeah, exactly. We're just going to go through now, so you can see again what the stops that we've got now. The only person who's actually just coming to the pits now is Drew Neubauer. He was the only person now that hadn't made at least one pit stop, and now he's coming in to serve that. So that is everyone in for their first round of pit stops. We have been told as well that Sean Campbell will be going out back on circuit once his repairs are finished. I imagine valuable testing time. Why not? You may as well utilize it while you still can. So I think, realistically, that's the best thing. Utilize the track time.
Absolutely, right? Exactly. Might as well use it if you have it, and get more familiarity with the car, regardless of the circuit. So we jump back on board right now. The Audi of Kaprowski currently running 8th in the Pro class. He's got Casey Metzger and Dan Tenorio right behind him, and you can see there as Metzger gets around the Audi. That's going to move Metzger for the moment up into 3rd in the Pro-Am class. Tenorio currently sitting in 4th.
Good move indeed. You've got to be committed around the outside. Fair play as well to Kaprowski, who did again leave the room, leave the space. You can squeeze someone, but you can't force them off the circuit. We saw that being displayed there. Absolutely spot on. So really good stuff. But again, very, very good move from Casey Metzger on Kaprowski. I wonder if that's going to be a position to come back. I don't know. I thought that Kaprowski may have some damage on the rear, but I could be wrong on that. Doesn't look like it now by the looks. But either way, again, good battling that we have seen throughout this circuit. Bear in mind, Kaprowski is actually in the Pro category. So Casey Metzger overtook Kaprowski, but obviously they're both in completely different categories. So it goes to show the pace that Metzger's got at this moment in time. And I don't know, it's hard to tell, but I sometimes think there's a bit of damage on the back of Kaprowski's car. I sometimes think not. I think it's the light hits it a little bit differently.
Yeah, yes, absolutely. You can see there, looks like the way the light hits the rear quarter panels of that car. But now once you get closer, yeah, I think it's just the shadows coming off the rear of the car. Doesn't look like there's any damage there as they now make their way out of the Ravazzas and head over towards the front straight. As we jump back now a little bit further back in the field for a little more mixed class action right now as we're on board there. The trailing car there, that is the Audi of Michael Fowler, currently running 3rd in the Am class. He's sitting right back behind Don Hunter, just ahead Steven Martinez, currently running 2nd in his Lamborghini in the Am class. As it looks like these 3 drivers just now, they finished up their first round of pit stops, getting some heat in the tires, and just starting to get the cars dialed in here as we jump back to Michael Kaluga in the number 82 machine. He's got Mark Scott, who is our leader in the Am class, behind him. And then we've got Wilson Brewer in the Audi, who, and I think we were on board just a few moments ago with Brewer in the number 62 machine. Brewer is sitting 12th right now in the Pro-Am class. And he's going to try and make a move around the outside, cannot get it done. A little bit of a late break there, late lunge, and just cannot get the car rotated when you go into a corner like that.
Gave it a good go. We've actually got a bit of an outer-class battle here from Don Hunter and Michael Fowler. Apologies. I was actually trying to speak earlier on, but it would help if my mic was not muted. That tends to help there, Dan. But hello, we put, hey, we push on and move forward. Kaluga is still trying to battle pretty aggressively. Well, sorry, defend pretty aggressively from. That was a slow exit. That was a very slow exit.
Yes, it was.
Going out of the chicane. This could very well be a move for Brewer. He's going to have to try and make a stick. If anything, I'd probably wait and I'd hold it off until going into turn 1. You've got half a second back to Mark Scott, who's not even in the same class. He's leading by 4 seconds in the AM category. I would wait exactly what he has done. He gets a good exit, a better exit than Kaluga, I reckon. I think this is going to be a done and dusted move because he's going to carry all the speed going down into turn 1.
Exactly. Yeah, and so now you can see he's looking, should he move to the left or should he move to the right? Now he's going to move over driver's left, and that should set him up very well for the left-hander, the first chicane here, at Tamburello.
Great move, very well calculated, very well left as well. Ideally, exactly what you need. Drew Neubauer has actually got past, I believe, Carl Fredriksson. So that is a move for Drew Neubauer. I haven't seen too much of Neubauer, but we are starting to see him now. But it's going to be side by side because Fredriksson's not giving up. The Mercedes does not want to back out. Does have to concede that position, unfortunately. And I tell you what, it might even lose out to John Casey.
I was just going to say, in that decision to force the issue in that last corner, you could see that Neubauer had much better exit speed than Fredriksson, so Fredriksson gives up another position to move Drew Neubauer in the Lamborghini now up into 10th in the AM class as they go, as they were both popping the curbs there over at the chicane. We'll have to see how that plays out as we jump back now a little bit further to the field, on board with Harry Wills, who has got a lot of good camera time tonight. He is currently running 7th in the pro class. He's got Tyler Campbell, who is our leader in the Pro-Am in the number 6 Porsche directly behind. And look at this, Wills goes off into the grass again, is able to gather things back up. But you can tell Daniel, he's driving the mirrors just a little bit there.
Yeah, the car. I mean, again, I wonder what happened really there. But I wasn't at the particularly the best camera angle. But I'm just wondering what happened. Could it be a possible state of imbalance in the current car at the moment? Is Will's not quite feeling where the car is? That could very well be a possibility. I'm just wondering because the car doesn't look all that settled. Maybe again, Imola, the setup might not necessarily be working. Imola is a tricky track. You've got to hit the curbs. You've got to utilize the curbs to your advantage, to hook the car round. It's something that takes a bit of time to get used to. And like I said, that could obviously take a different amount of time for everyone. But Wills is not slow. He definitely has some pace. It just might not be fully being extracted in this particular round. But like I said, round 1 is at Kota. I mean, it's a very, very different circuit. It's so open, it's so wide. It's almost the polar opposite, I think, to be fair, to somewhere like this.
Yes, very, very different with some very quick sections, very tight sections as well. To some extent, like we have here at Imola, but Imola with a lot more wide open racing, I think. To challenge the car. And I mean, perhaps he just did not have the time with the setup on the car, and it just may not be dialed in as well for many of the corners here. It's always a balance when you're setting up a car for a track that has many different types of corners and maybe different types of pavement as well, in order to give you the best balance around the majority of the track. It's not going to be perfect at every single corner, but it looks like Will's having a little bit of an issue there in getting a good feel for the car.
Yeah, it will come with time. And as you say, compromise, there's always a compromise with any setup you ever do, any change you ever make. One change corrects one thing and then it starts to upset another. And that's never, ever going to change, unfortunately. There is no sort of one set fits all. Plus, as well, bear in mind, obviously, the driving style obviously differs and the driving style adapts. Every season there's a BOP change, or most season there's a BOP change with the GT3 categories and most classes. Most classes of car. Speaking about, I'm going to interrupt myself here with Mark Sigelkow. He's just made a move on Blake Scott, but he goes wide. He goes wide. Well, I wonder what happened there. Could have been it didn't look like a hardware fail. It just carried a little bit too much pace. So that was a brief position made there from Sigelkow, but unfortunately he does lose out on 3, 4, 5, 6 positions, drop down to P11. I wonder what happened there. Actually, let's see if we can get a.
You take a look. He may have just locked up the front brakes. seemed very,
Oh,
well, you can see the car that went off right ahead of him. Oh, and a little bit of contact there.
just releases the brakes for some reason.
Yeah.
Almost did a Hamilton at Imola this year in the F1.
That, yeah, absolute. A matter of fact, that's, and I believe at the exact same corner. The very
Yeah.
very apropos there. But yeah, it looked as though, you know, I thought he had just locked up the front wheel, but he actually just released the brakes and the car didn't turn in. And you can see there a bit of front end damage.
Yeah, obviously that front end damage is going to hurt him. Whether that's going to be repaired in the second pit stop, that remains to be seen. Bear in mind, you know, these cars, while they do have ABS in these GT3 cars, at the same time, and what Greg was alluding to, you know, for people that don't quite know, people that assume that GT3s do have ABS, you can still lock the tyres up. You can still, because you can adjust how much ABS that you have. You know, for me personally, I like as little ABS as I can afford to run. There's no point turning it off because having that safety net is nice to have it and you can lean onto it to a certain degree, but I still want to be more in control. The higher the ABS, obviously, the less it will kick up. But if you do have it to a certain degree, to a certain, you know, on the lowest setting possible, there is an opportunity where there is a possibility where, as we have seen a couple of times here, is you can lock the brakes up still.
Sure.
So
yeah. And of course, you know, the ability to go and modulate the brakes yourself there to the point of lockup in many cases would be much better than, you know. And again, I think a lot of this comes down to testing, to setting an ABS level where, you know, you get your foot in, you smash that brake pedal, and you're expecting the car to slow down to a point where you can then turn in for a corner, and you still need an extra 10 feet of braking. So, you know, having that feel in your toes, I think in many cases much better. Of course, this comes from somebody who races low-powered Hondas with no ABS. So
you've got to utilize it, haven't you? You've got to utilize it, but at the same time, you've got to make sure that you're not relying on it too much. I always think as well, there's a very, very fine line between the two. And as long as you can utilize it to your advantage, but without relying on it, you're going to be a very, very fast driver. You're going to be able to cope with it and control it, because that's the key thing there. Is always it always is the control. Justin Brunner, speaking of control, is controlling the lead of the race very, very nicely indeed, with a 9-second lead on the sister McLaren, Dave Menino. That's bear in mind, it's a 40. We're just ticking over. We've actually gone past halfway. And a 9-second gap. That is impressive. When you've got the level of competition that we've seen here, I mean, admittedly, obviously, Sean Campbell, you know, let's not forget, had a fantastic lead as well before the incident that he got caught up in. I mean, a 9-second gap is absolutely astonishing. It goes to show again, like, the level of pace that Brunner has got, and also the pace that the McLaren's got. I'm just genuinely staggered.
Yeah, and again, we've talked about how difficult it is to drive the McLaren. It was very surprising to see the top 3 positions all in those in the MP4s, and you know, there's not only were they showing good qualifying pace, they are absolutely still showing very good race pace as well, as Brunner comes up on a driver who just went off course and manages to again look through the corner, continue on, just a little flick of the wheel there, and he's back underway. Let's take a look.
Exactly, that was Brian Volz, I think, that was having a bit of a moment. So what happens here? Just touch the grass. Yeah, it was always going to happen, unfortunately. You know, and there we see good waiting though again, like we've seen this again. There are cars coming, manages to come just off of line to a certain degree, keeps it on the inside. So a rejoin that I think was going to happen soon. Otherwise, we would have been waiting for absolute eternity for everyone to drive by. So you know, he rejoined in a relatively safe manner. I think that was absolutely fine.
Yeah, and it looks like that probably was not his first incident of the evening. The rear end of that car looking awfully beat up right now. All right, as we jump back on board now with Eric Kaluga in the number 66 Lamborghini, and just a little bit back behind him, we have Casey Metzger. We've been watching this battle actually for quite a bit this evening here, and they've been running very, very close both before and after their first pit stops.
Yeah, the pit stop, like I said, we're not going to see really too much until the final pit stops go through. So I'll be interested to see what the gaps start to come down. Speaking of gaps as well, because this is a battle kicking off between Harry Wills and Isaac Snyder. They're coming through down into the second to last corner. Who's going to be the person that comes out on top? At the moment, it's going to be Harry Wills, but Snyder is not too far ahead. Someone's just had a bit of an off, a very, very small off, and that's actually, I believe, that was Brian Vols. No, that wasn't Brian Vols. That was Sammy Lackey that's had a moment. Luckily, did not cause any time loss for Harry Wills nor Isaac Snyder. Isaac Snyder, though, in the Porsche, I think Mercedes has got the legs. We know the Mercedes is quick. It's been quick for the last couple of seasons in a straight line, which is why we weren't seeing Snyder catch up all too much, especially with Wills did have a toe.
There we go, Snyder, and you can see him. He drops a wheel at entry. Oof. Oh.
Oh, dear.
Yes, and so Harry Wills now heads back to the pits, but all precipitated by just a drop of the right rear wheel into the grass, as you can see here, as they come down into the first chicane, puts the car around, and right back behind, the Porsche gets by clear, but unfortunately a number of trailing cars did not have anywhere to go.
No, unfortunately not. And Matthew Plaisance got caught up, which, I mean, again, I think Lyndon Lee got caught up as well. Managed to just get off track and continue on. Yeah, ultimately, though, I think that was a mistake that, I mean, I've done that more times than I care to mention. I do feel for Harry Wilson at the moment. It's definitely not been his race. But then there's plenty more to go. Like, so you've got 10 rounds left of the season. So realistically, there's plenty to crack on, plenty of positions and opportunities to gain some good racing back. But yeah, again, we just see, well, I know, to be fair, Harry has been, both Harry, Dean, and the rest of the team have been absolutely working their little cotton socks off to try, to get all of this put together. So, it's a free pass for any of those guys, because at the end of the day, it's the priority has been getting the season up and running. And for them to jump in and race as well. I mean, again, fair play. It's good to see that everyone's on the grid. Obviously, Dean is actually on stewarding tonight, I believe. So Dean, hi to you in the chat, as well as also hi to everyone that is watching. We've got, I believe, last time I checked, we've got 30 people watching still. So thank you very much, everyone. And let us know in the comments who you're supporting as well. Like I said, any comments as well. Make sure you like the stream if you haven't already, and subscribe to Absolute Sim Racing also as well, because every little helps. And I did not rip that off from the Tesco adverts, and that was something that was not intentional. You probably don't know what I'm talking about there, Greg, do you?
Tesco, a very supermarket, or I believe supermarket in the UK. Is that correct?
You are correct, and their catchphrase was "Every little helps."
Well, there you go. All right.
There we go. So I'm going to get, probably sued.
You're going to get sued, yes.
Oh, dear.
So we won't be seeing you next week. This is unfortunately the one and only broadcast that you'll see from Absolute Sim Racing for the series day. It's big thank you to everyone for watching and for tuning in as well. It's absolutely fantastic to see, and bear in mind, this isn't the full grid as well. We've got more people still to come yet. So let's not count anyone out just yet, because we're going to have even more grids and even more positions coming up. Sean Ryan's just made a move on Nathan Olsen. Is Olsen going to make the move back? No, he does not. So concedes the position. He's not.
But I think he's going to be able to carry a run going through possibly into turn 4. He's very, very close. He's very close.
Yeah, you can see the BMW had the rear end wiggling through there. It looked like he was going to have a little bit of trouble setting the power down now. But as they come out of here, it looks like Ryan has gotten things underneath. But look at how much Ekmanis makes up in braking there. That is unbelievable. Or probably Olsen makes up in braking there. Came right up to the rear corner, and he is carrying a little bit more speed through a number of these corners.
As long as he can stay within the sort of 0.3 of a second, I think this might be a relatively easy pass, because the Lamborghini, I think, is relatively quick in a straight line. The one car that isn't all that quick in a straight line is the McLaren. It's a rapid car, and I do feel for anyone driving it
But you need to carry speed through the corners in order to get that to carry that pace.
This is true. The only one that I probably wouldn't suggest with that is Daytona. It's probably literally the only one. Nathan Olsen, he's got to slow down. I thought he got to slow down because of that, and unfortunately he did. So any possible opportunity that he was going to make back have now been completely shattered. which I'm sure is going to be frustrating for him. But again, put it behind you, crack on, head down. Plenty of opportunities left to go. Battling as well in the AM category. There's battling everywhere, Greg, isn't there? Fantastic to see. Again, exactly
yes, there is. Yeah, very, very strong field here tonight across all three classes. Great battling from front to back as we're now 50 minutes into this 75-minute race. We're probably going to start seeing cars start to drop in for their second pit stops of the evening fairly soon, probably within the next 10 minutes or so. Here as we're on board right now with Jerry Forkolb in his Mercedes with Matt Plaisance just ahead. This is the battle now for 6th in the AM class. And the Mercedes seemingly starting to pick up a little bit of ground there. That last time by, Forkolb was, actually they were running very similar paces here. Forkolb about 0.7 of a second faster that last time by, however.
Yeah, this you jump into possibly some stage of the race where you feel slightly quicker, some stage of the race where you feel slightly slower. It's all swings and roundabouts. You tend to find that it'll all start coming your way in the end, and it evens itself out with everyone. Drew Neubauer has actually had a crash as well as had been off somewhere. Again, look at that profile photo. That's a racing driver profile photo if I ever saw one.
Oh, yes, it is.
Oh,
right out of NASCAR and right into the wall. And Drew Neubauer in that Team Prematt Lamborghini. Oh, poor luck there as he tries to get the car turned back around and get back underway.
Manages to get it going, obviously. No harm, no foul, I don't think there. There was minimal damage to that. Obviously, going into the tyre barrier, you got yourself a nice little bit of a cushion there. So I think, to be honest, oh God, I love the sound of that flat 6. I'll never get tired of that sound ever in my life. Yeah, minimal damage there into the tyre barrier. May have a little bit of front error, but I don't think it will make all that much of a difference. Maybe a kilometre an hour on the straight, possibly. But I doubt it'll be all that much. Seeing some drivers now exit the pits, and we're seeing some drivers enter the pits as well now. So second round of pit stops coming our way.
Yes, I think once drivers see one pop in, they all start heading in. Fredrickson into the pits, Cooper into the pits, Blake Scott into the pits as well, as we're on board right now with Mark Sigelkow going back to the Mercedes right on the back of Mark Scott. Now, Scott, your leader currently in the AM class, and he's got a little bit of an advantage right now over second place Stephen Martinez. Currently, Martinez about 6 seconds in arrears of that little on-track battle. As we jump back up now, there's Martinez, and he's got Michael Kaluga just a couple car lengths back. Kaluga running in 8th position in the Pro-Am class.
There's a respectable positioning here as well. Again, it gives you a good opportunity to size up what you're doing, size up the competition and everything. I'm noticing as well, and I'm just having a very quick look through at the positions gained. So Michael Fowler, again, who we haven't seen all that much of in terms of positioning, and just a bit of shout out to the people that have made up the most positions. So overall, this is not in class, bear in mind. But the positions they've made overall, okay, is we've got from their gridding position, Daniel Tenorio has made 18 positions. Okay, yes. Mark Scott's made 16. Michael Fowler has made 18. Stephen Martinez is now.
And I think we just saw Fowler make up 3 very quick positions as a number of drivers are heading into the pits.
Yes, exactly.
But yes, he had made up, and he's currently running second in the AM class now, as some of our drivers are starting to cycle through. Matter of fact, Stephen Martinez, who we were following just a few moments ago, pitted in from second, and he should be rolling back out on track, completing his second pit stop in just a moment here. But yes, a number of drivers that have made up a number of positions. As you mentioned, Tenorio currently running second in the Pro-Am in his Lamborghini, 18 positions. Mark Scott, who currently leads the AM class, and I don't think he has taken his second pit stop yet, 16 positions. So great running there, and I don't want to say I'm surprised, but we've got a number of our AM drivers that have worked their way quite a ways up through that Pro-Am field so far.
We have indeed, and again, it goes to show, it's one of those things where you don't necessarily have to be, obviously, the pro category as well. We've seen, again, some really, really quick racing, some really quick drivers. Bear in mind, Brunner, his gap is now extended to 10.6 seconds as both Brunner and that is Menen. Apologies, that is, who is that? The number 43. No, that is Menino. So Menino jumping in the pits as well. Everyone jumps into the pits actually from the Pro-Ams that we can see. So one goes, they all go in. Sean Ryan, one of the people that hasn't gone in. So he now runs up in a provisional first place with Derek Ekmanis in P2 in the Lamborghini behind. So they will be pitting slightly later. Pit laps as well. Everyone seems to be pitting. I mean, actually, Sean Ryan's pit stop, his last pit stop, was actually a little bit, it was around the same time as everyone else around him. So he's able to extend this second pit stop a little bit further, which is, I mean, great because, you know, the longer you can go on this second pit stop, well, the less fuel you're going to need to put in, which equates to a shorter stop.
So, shorter stop.
Yeah, this is a key thing.
Hopefully pick up another position or so.
100%. Pit stop is, the amount of time that can be gained at a pit stop is quite surprising. Again, it's something that, again, drivers will start to develop more and more. They'll start to work it out more and more as how much they can actually make up and how much business they can make it up. Steven Martinez gets past Michael Kaluga. Sorry, that is... apologies, that's Kalaga. Again, the pronunciation was slightly wrong there, so I do apologise. Michael Kalaga in the number 82 concedes that position to Steven Martinez. It looks like he went a tad wide going into the first chicane, which would have cost him. So that will be why. Blake Scott having a good battle as well with John Cooper just ahead in the Lamborghini. So Lambo versus Lambo. I think that's what we can probably say for most of the cars that we can see here because, like I said,
yes,
a third of the grid is Lamborghinis.
The majority of the field here tonight, absolutely. All right. Yeah, so great battle there. That is the battle right now for 13th in the Pro-Am. And Scott, we're following. We've got Cooper and then John Whitmoyer in the Audi, just ahead of them. Whitmoyer in the AM class, currently running in 5th. And actually starting to see a number of the AM drivers starting to pop into the pit lane. We've got Mark Scott, who I believe pitted in from first. Urexoy as well as Michael Fowler as well came in. So a little shake up there.
So this is defensive driving, isn't it? You can already see.
Yes.
You can already see now from Cooper, he's wanting to defend nice and aggressively. I mean, again, he's well within his right to. These guys are battling for position. They have both made their second pit stops. Yes, they're confirmed. Second pit stops have been made. So, Richard, that was a cut. Oh, again, this is the concertinaing action here. Yeah, this is the people coming out of pits. This is where it can get very, very tricky. There's a bit of traffic up ahead as well. Have a look at this. I wonder, that's Jonathan Whitmoyer that's going to possibly be holding up John Cooper, which is going to play right into the hands of Blake Scott, who we're riding on board with now.
And we'll have to see how long this stays the way it is. Whitmoyer has not come in for his second pit stop. He's actually the only one in this group of now 5 cars, and actually 6. If you look a little bit further ahead up to, I think, Michael Fowler, the only driver that has not gone in for his second pit stop. So maybe another lap, maybe 2 laps or so, but certainly. And it may not matter all that much right now as Blake Scott puts the car around the number 22 rear end of that car, stepping out on him, and he is now going to drop a number of positions as a number of drivers head on by as we jump up now back into that previous group, and we are taking a look at the Audi of Whitmoyer, who still has John Cooper all over the back. Of course, Cooper now no longer has to worry about Blake Scott, who had looks like 4 cars managed to get around him. It's going to Scott is going to maintain. Actually, he's not going to maintain. He's going to lose 1 spot in the Pro-Am class. Don Hunter is going to take over 12th position. It's going to drop Blake Scott down to 13th. But he does have 2 AM class cars directly ahead of him now. As we continue to now we're looking back from the Audi of Whitmoyer back to Kalaga. Or probably back to John Cooper, pardon me, as looks like Cooper now has maybe had enough going into turn 1.
Calculated move again. I think realistically, Whitmore just goes a little bit wide. That will cost him a little bit of time as well. That was a move that was going to have to be made sooner rather than later, because now again there's no cars in between Cooper and Kalaga. So that's now a battle that's going to come down. It's already come down to 10th, bear in mind. So let's keep an eye out for that, because that's really going to come down, and we're going to see that as a battle in these latter stages of the race. 14 minutes left to go, everyone. Whitmore has another bit of a moment. Oh, that was, I tell you what, if he was in Formula Drift, that would be a nice points there for
It was very pretty for the Drift King there.
It was.
Coming through that corner, it seemed to recover fairly well, and gets back underway as we jump a little bit further. Well, jump a little bit further up as we're on with Kaluga right now, and you can see just ahead of Martinez and Fowler, he's got Joe Smith to contend with. So a couple, again, he has the battle for the second spot on the podium in the AM class directly ahead of him, and it looks like he's now going to try to put himself right in the middle of it here.
He is indeed, but John Cooper is ahead, and John Cooper's going to make that move on Michael Kaluga, and that is it, done and dusted. We saw, and we said that, didn't we, that Kalaga has got some pace, but so has John Cooper, and I said John Cooper has made the move. Next person in sight is Stephen Martinez, then Michael Fowler, and then Joseph Smith. I think realistically, though, we see John Cooper, he's now in the top 10, in 10th. I reckon if he can continue with this pace, looking at how quick he is at the moment, with a 43.63 was his last lap, he will catch up to Joseph Smith within the next 2 or 3 laps, possibly even maybe 4 or 5. So I reckon there's a P9 in this for John Cooper, as long as he can keep the car in check.
And that should put him right up there with just perhaps 2 laps remaining, as we are we've got now just a touch over 10 minutes remaining, about 17 minutes remaining here from Imola in our 75-minute opener in the Race Anywhere Transatlantic Championship. But a great battle going on here with Kulaga and Cooper. And Michael Fowler looks like he ran a little bit wide. Fowler currently running second in the AM class, and he's trying to find his way up to Mark Scott, but certainly pushing the car that hard, not the way to do it. And you can see Scott 2 cars up ahead, about 15 car lengths out of Fowler's sight there.
Indeed, yes. Cooper, I'm sagging at the pace that Cooper's got at the moment. He is really motoring along. So Cooper's got Michael Fowler now ahead of him, and then he's only got 1.6 seconds up the road. And then there's Joseph Smith. So we can see Joseph Smith. Let's actually ride back on board with John Cooper, because we can see, look at that. You can see Joseph Smith ahead. He'll be coming over the start-finish line in about 4 or 5 seconds. So the gap, it's not too far, is it, realistically? 2.6 seconds between himself and a P9 position. And I can imagine he's going to be wanting that sooner rather than later. That's from the closer battles we have seen, and we've got currently at the moment. The pro category is a little bit quiet at this moment in time, purely because I think there's just, unfortunately, there's around 6 cars that are still continuing to go. We've got a few cars that are still, so Ryan Kaprowski is still on the move. Harry Wills, unfortunately, has retired. He's not back out yet. Sean Campbell is back out on track. So here he is, with what looks like a fully repaired car, with a 42.39 as his, a 45.39 as his last lap, with a 42.39 as his best. That is staggeringly fast.
It's very, very quick, and it looks like we just saw Andy Hewitt in that Gulf liveried McLaren take to the grass just ahead.
Isaac Snyder having a bit of a moment, and then we'll have a look at Hewitt as well. Oh, just a small...
it looked like he just didn't even get the car turned in at all.
It was a speed one, wasn't it? Let's have a look at that from a roll bar. Well, we've got a bit of time. Let's have a look from a roll bar perspective, just to see. Have a look at the steering angle on the left-hand side. Is it going to be pitched? Ah, there we go. So it rotated. That's why. Just counter-steered. I mean, it does jump into the wall, unfortunately. But, I mean, all in all, manages to hold it sort of relatively well, because that could have been a nasty incident. That bit of oversteer.
Yes.
Very well caught. Here's Andrew Hewitt's coming up with his incident. I think we've just gone, we caught that at the wrong moment. So, I mean, trying to think where that is. That's coming through down into the second chicane.
That's, yeah, that is coming through Villeneuve, I believe, on the way down to Tosa.
I see. So, that almost looked like what would have been a carbon copy, okay, of what happened with Isaac Snyder a couple of laps ago. But that is the problem with... and inherently the problem with the McLaren is when it goes, it's so impossible to save. Okay, lost it on the way in, possibly on the break-in. Didn't know that there was contact, but don't know. Bit of a strange one that we couldn't quite catch quite catch the full extent of that incident. But we'll move swiftly on because John Cooper, he's got Stephen Martinez in his sights now. Tell you what has happened actually to John Cooper? Has John Cooper had a little bit of an off?
I was just going to say here that I think what we're seeing is a swap in positions between Martinez and Cooper here. So the Audi now. Let's take a look.
That'd be why. So
yes, it would.
Yeah, so Andrew Hewitt went off, and then John Cooper followed. So that'd be why that Stephen Martinez went, thank you very much, and sailed up the inside. So John Cooper's got to do that all over again. With possibly a little bit of damage if he sustains some on that off that he had. I don't think he has, though. It didn't look like too much of an off, to be perfectly honest.
No.
So I don't think damage was going to be... don't think damage was there. So I'm sure that got the pace, although it does mean that the gap is... It was 2.5 seconds where we looked. Look at the gap in the bottom right-hand corner of your screen. It's now doubled. It's now 4 seconds.
And we only have 7.5 minutes remaining here, so perhaps looks like we're gonna have to redo that calculation, and it might be a little bit more difficult for him to get up there before we hit that very last lap. And of course, getting up to the rear bumper is one thing; getting around is certainly something else. Here, as it looks like he's recovered rather well, but he's certainly got a good distance to travel at this point here, as he's going to have to find his way around this next car.
Yeah, you've got to be cautious, especially when you've had a small off like that. I mean, the car will be fine now, but when you pick up a little bit of dirt, at least for the first sort of like 3 or 4 sets of corners, you've just got to be a bit more cautious. You've got to be a little bit more careful. Because otherwise, again, we talked about this earlier on, the snowball effect, it just gets worse and worse and worse and worse. You try and counter-steer, you try and counteract that, the fact that it's getting worse, and then you make more mistakes, and before you know it, like you've crashed into it. Speaking of crashing as well, who was that's had a moment? So unfortunately interrupting myself there.
I think that was Bravada who went off.
Bravada, it wasn't. So he had his own excursion, but that wasn't him going off.
Drew Neubauer?
I think it was, yes. Hit the nail on the head there, Drew Neubauer. Yes, it was. Oh, bit of curb on the entry. Just saw that. Oh,
yep,
curb
there
on
you
there
go.
as well.
A lot of curb on the entry, getting that sausage curb and just popped it up. But pretty quick recovery. Looks like the gravel trap there slowed his exit speed quite well, but he does lose a number of positions on track.
So that'll be why that he hit the curb on the left-hand side. He hit the curb on the second of the double right, is purely because the car was already gone. The car had already started to go at that point. So best of a bad situation there as well. That was a very, very minimal incident for what could have been a very, very nasty one. So Neubauer did very well to recover that, I feel, with that minimal time loss. So fantastic stuff that we can see there. And again, great car control from these guys. That's the great thing about it, is we're seeing some amazing, amazing car control. And as you say, this is with people that aren't really quite used to the cars, because a lot of them were changing chassis all the time, up until a few days ago. So these drivers are going to be absolutely relentless when it comes to when they actually get more used to these cars throughout the season.
All right, and we've yes, certainly as this season winds on, I think these drivers are going to find themselves much more comfortable here as we watch the battle right now. This is the battle for fourth right now in the Pro-Am, as we've got Casey Metzger on your right in the Lamborghini. We've got Frederic Lavoie in the black BMW. And as they make their way down towards turn 1, is the BMW going to pop to the inside? He does for a moment, but doesn't quite have the pace. Has to drop back in line, going through Tamburello, and he's going to, at least for another corner, have to be content with 5th position. As he puts the nose in once again, and certainly getting racy as they step through. And there
what
you
a
go.
save.
Yeah, great save by Casey Metzger. Had the rear end step out on him. He's going to have to concede the position, but it could have been a lot worse for Metzger.
Absolutely. I'm wondering. I mean, I don't think there did look like any contact was made through there. I want to have another look at that because that was the save of the day.
Yeah, I don't think there was any contact there. It looks like Metzger just got all the way out on the curbing and had a loss of grip there at the rear and had to give it a little counter steer.
Let's have a quick look as we go. Yeah, just that curb.
Oh, he did get the curb.
Just the curb. Such a tricky car. I can imagine this is frustrating for a lot of drivers here. It's the only problem with Imola. Imola's an amazing circuit, but if you hit the curbs wrong, it just goes completely wrong, and there's nothing that you can ever do to save it. Something's happened here between Michael Fowler, and that's why, because Michael Fowler's dropped a load of positions, unfortunately, because he's gone off, and one of the places that he has lost is against Stephen Martinez.
Yep. Yeah, so that's going to move Martinez now up to 2nd. In the AM class, and there you go. You take a look at that photo of Michael Fowler, and he looked pretty confused by by what just happened to him. I think that might have been the look from behind the helmet there as he went off. But there we go. So that is going to move Martinez now up to 2nd. It's going to drop Fowler back to 3rd in the AM class here. And as much as Martinez had to work to find his way around Fowler. Fowler's running out of time here as we now have just 3 minutes remaining in this 75-minute race. So not a lot of time if Fowler's looking to jump back up to that 2nd spot on the podium.
No, very true. And one person as well that actually gained out of that massively was John Cooper. Unfortunately, the gap has actually extended to 5 seconds now. So I think as much as that John Cooper will still be able to see Joseph Smith ahead of him, it is unfortunately not going to be a position gained, I don't think. It's now dropped down already to 4.8, but it's still must be an average of about 2 seconds a lap. That's going to be a very, very tall order as well. Battling still happening here between Frederic Lavoie and Casey Metzger. And again, Metzger getting very, very deep on the brakes. Lamborghini is very good on the brakes compared to the BMW. It seems the BM takes a little bit longer to stop, maybe a little bit heavier as well. That could be why, and against the braking system, the BM may not be as good. The Lamborghini we're seeing consistently. This is really going to help the car, really going to help the Lamborghini. They're going to be nice and strong on these shorter circuits as well. You know, straight line speed for places like Daytona and COTA to a certain degree as well. Stability's good, but when it comes to like heavy braking zones, I mean, Monza to a certain degree, I think would be very beneficial with this Lamborghini. So if you can hold it on those, if you can hold it on the brakes and you'll last the late breakers, I mean, that's going to pay you in very, very good dividends. Interesting. So, Frederic Lavoie is going in for his 2nd pit stop. No, he's going in for his 3rd pit stop.
No, this is his 3rd pit stop, but I'm wondering if he perhaps... I certainly didn't see it in that last exchange. I was wondering if he had picked up enough incident points to warrant a drive-through, but obviously not. Apparently, he just short-filled the car and didn't have the fuel. Or at least he didn't think he had the fuel to make it the last 1 minute here to the very end. So he's going to take that splash and head back out on track, and he's going to lose a number of positions in the interim. As we jump back here with Michael Fowler in the Audi, the number 54 car, currently running 3rd in the AM class. And you can see there just ahead of him Martinez, but it is about 10 car lengths here, as looks as though those drivers probably going to get one more lap. Let's take a look here as we jump now up to our leader, Justin Brunner, and this should be the very last lap for Brunner as he makes his way. Let's see, where is he coming through now? Through Aqua Minerale, I believe. So just a few more corners as he's going to come up to, looks like coming up to the final chicane here.
Oh, it's twitchy. It is twitchy. You can see that. It's so twitchy. I mean, recently, Sean Campbell's such a shame, but I mean, a 12.4 second lead. You can't argue with that.
No, not at all. A great run for our leader here, as he has just a few corners left. pops down to the inside. He's going to come around the final corner here and onto the front straight, and taking the win here at Imola, it is going to be Justin Brunner, driver of the number 2 Inex Racing McLaren MP412C. Great run from him tonight. You know, it seemed for a while, Daniel, that nobody in the pro class wanted to lead this race, or nobody could. I don't think that's not that they didn't want to, but Justin Brunner with, as you mentioned, a commanding win over Dave Menino, who will finish second, 12 seconds back. Derek Ekmanis in his Lamborghini will finish in third, takes the last step on the podium in the pro class. Nate Olson will finish in fourth. Sean Ryan crosses the stripe. He will finish fifth in his BMW. And then we take a look, the very first driver, we'll follow him along, the very first driver in the Pro-Am class, Tyler Campbell. He is coming out of the final corner in his Porsche 911 GT3. He's going to take the win in Pro-Am. Dan Tenorio in his Lamborghini, just a few seconds back, not just a few, almost 10 seconds back, crosses the stripe. He will finish second in Pro-Am. Ian Snyder, I think, is going to be the next car through, finishing sixth in the pro class. But Brent Bravata, there he is in the number 11 machine. He did have an off about 6 minutes ago, but recovers. He is going to take the third and final step on the podium in the Pro-Am, finishing ahead of Casey Metzger and Eric Kulaga as we follow those drivers here. Looks like Kulaga letting a few folks by here, coming into the final corners. There we go. We have the number Bravata in the Kulaga. There we go. Make his way through.
I think this is the
That's
only
Michael
issue.
Kulaga. Yeah.
With multi-class racing as well, this is the only thing, because everyone finishes a little bit off in positions here. But
Right.
yeah, Michael Kulaga, I believe everyone's actually crossed the line now. A couple of drivers still yet to come into the pits.
Yes, so if we take a look at the AM class, Mark Scott in his Lamborghini will take the win in the number 67 machine, finishing second in the AM class. Stephen Martinez in his Lamborghini, and then Michael Fowler, who had that little off with just a few moments remaining. He will finish in third, last step on the podium in the AM class. Errol Yerkskoy, who was our pole sitter in the AM class, he works his way back up to fourth after having fallen all the way back to the very rear end of the field. John Whitmoyer in his Audi will finish in fifth. There you go. There's the finishing order for the AM class. Scott, Martinez, Fowler, Yerkskoy, then John Whitmoyer rounding out the top five. Thorcol, Plaisance, Kepler, Alvis, Neubauer rounding out the top 10. And you can see there we had the top 6 cars finish on the lead lap, and from there out, 1 lap down and more.
Absolutely. Here is your finishing grid positions. Apologies, we are going to get to the actual proper grid positions up in a few moments for you. But the Pro-Am category, here we go. Campbell.
There we go.
Yeah, there we are. Campbell, Tenorio, Bravata, Metzger, and Kulaga in the top 5. And then we have got Wilson Brewer P6 with Frederick Lavoie in 7th, Mark Sigelkow in 8th, Joseph Smith 9th, John Cooper in 10th, Michael Kulaga in P11 with Blake in 12th. Apologies, I've lost my train of thought there. Where are we? There we go. Actually, yeah, Scott P12. P13 was Hunter. And we have 14th was Lyden Lee. Traber in 15th with Jana Emilio in 16th. And that was your Pro-Am finishing positions there. And then the Pro category coming up. Not as many cars in there, unfortunately, with this one at this particular round. But again, I'm sure that will resolve itself going through actually into round 1.
All right, so there you go. Justin Brunner, your winner. Dave Menino, Dave Ekmanis. I believe we have Dave Menino waiting in the green room right now. We'll pull him in just a moment. Derek Ekmanis, again, finishing third. Nate Olson, Sean Ryan, rounding out the top 5. Isaac Snyder, Kaprowski, Campbell, Willis, and Lane rounding out the field. And so we do have Daniel, and we'll bring him in. We've got Dave Meneno, who was our second place finisher in the pro class. Let's bring him on in.
Absolutely, let us do just that. Bear with us a few moments while we get Dave Meneno in. I believe we do have them in straight away. Dave, can you hear us?
Yeah, I can hear you.
Brilliant. Dave, congratulations on P2. A very good result on the pre-qualifying. Going forward, we were discussing this a lot, actually, where, lots of things playing through your mind, I'm sure, at this moment in time. What was especially as you're in the McLaren as well, so fair play. I think that deserves a pat on the back in itself. The fact that you managed to bring the McLaren home in a race. But what was that like for you as well throughout and moving forward with the preparation?
Yeah, it was definitely interesting. I kind of just drove my own race the whole time because I wasn't quick enough to catch up to Justin once I lost this draft. I got a little unlucky with some back markers early on, and I think he had about 2 or 3 tenths of lap pace on me. So after that, I just kind of ran my own race, just try to stay out of trouble as I lapped the back markers. But yeah, I mean everyone was clean, so when it was pretty uneventful, thankfully, in a good way.
As you say, uneventful is never necessarily a bad thing, is it, to be perfectly honest? This is probably, I imagine this has given you a good amount of confidence going through into the first round. How do we reckon we're going to approach it? Again, is there going to be a bit of difference in terms of preparation? I don't know how the McLaren works around Kurt, I believe. So, what are your thoughts?
Yeah, it should be interesting. I think since we're running, since I'll be starting second rather than doing the reverse grids, which then start after the next round, it'll be kind of a similar strategy to this race, where it's just kind of hoping that I'm quicker than the guys behind me, and maybe I can catch up a little bit to the Justin in front of me. But yeah, I mean, I think it's going to be a pretty similar strategy to this race. Just try and run my own race, stay out of trouble, and hopefully get a good result.
Absolutely. Well, fantastic stuff, Dave. Pleasure to catch up with you. And before we let you go, anyone else you'd like to give a quick shout out to on the broadcast?
Yeah, I'd like to thank you guys for running the broadcast, and we'd like to thank my SRT eSport team. Great group of guys, and really enjoy racing with them.
Brilliant stuff. Fantastic. Well, Dave, absolute pleasure to catch up with you, and for the very first time, and we look forward to catching up with you more as the season progresses.
Great. Thanks, guys.
All right, there you go. That was Dave Meneno, our second place finisher tonight in the pro class. Tell you what, let's bring in Tyler Campbell, driver of the number 6 machine. He was your winner tonight in the Pro-Am.
Absolutely indeed. Tyler, can you hear us, sir?
Yeah, good evening, guys.
Good evening, Tyler. First off, congratulations on the race win in the Pro-Am category. I mean, 11 positions gained up for yourself over the course of the race. Again, how did that sort of work for you? What was the, you seem to have some, really relentless pace. Pit stops were really good as well. How was that for you from your perspective in this pre-qualifying round?
Well, really, because it's a pre-qualifying round, a lot of drivers not familiar with. So today I was basically just trying to focus on figuring people out and trying to take my time. As Jackie Stewart says, in order to go fast, you must first go slow. So that's kind of what I was doing here tonight, especially not knowing how big the difference was going to be between a few classes. And sure enough, my patience ended up paying off for me fairly well a couple different times. But we just tried to focus on getting a good start with Alex at the very beginning. Shame that things didn't end well for him through the race. But once we kind of got that gap built up, it was just focused on trying to keep them at roughly like 2 seconds or so, and just as soon as I lost time, try to pick it up a notch and just not overdo the car and overdo me basically. But just trying to race against my mind in a way.
Absolutely. I think, as you say, actually, having to race with your own thoughts, I think, can actually be quite a bit of a struggle. Porsche looked really settled, though. We would say this as well. It's the newcomer to the GT3 category. We've seen an indulgence of Lamborghinis as well that's really taken the top step in terms of the amount of cars. I mean, how did the Porsche fare?
Well, the Porsche, similar to the Lamborghini and the Audi, it has kind of like this like off-brake rotation characteristic, where it gets really oversteery off brakes. And if you're not careful, it can bite you. And we saw lots of people who lost the rear in turns 9 and in turn 4, just not being able to keep the grip and put the power down. And so I actually ended up going with a higher downforce package on my car, knowing I was going to be a little bit slower, but really focused on just trying to be consistent and in control of the car. Because there were several times where, I almost lost the race for myself, just trying to keep a consistent pace. I was glad to have the extra help of the extra downforce, because I'm pretty sure I would have ended up facing the wrong direction at least once or twice if I had run with the original package I was planning on using.
Brilliant. Well, like I said, at the end of the day, it seemed to work for you as well with the Pro-Am win, and I think this is going to give you obviously a really good stead going forward into round 1. Before we let you go, Tyler, anyone you'd like to give a quick shout out to?
I'd like to shout out FTR Esports, my team, and our sponsor, Cam Cargo, race pace and race director. And also thanks to Harry for putting all this together, and Daniel, thank you to you for hosting it tonight.
It's been an absolute pleasure. Myself and Greg have thoroughly enjoyed commentating on this pre-qualifying round. Brilliant. Well, Tyler, we look forward to catching up with you in similar circumstances very soon.
Thank you very much. Have a great night, guys.
All right, there you go. Tyler Campbell, driver of the number 6 machine, our winner tonight in the Pro-Am. Let's go and bring in Mark Scott, driver of the number 67 machine. He was our winner tonight in the AM class.
Indeed. Marks, can you hear us? Mark, I think your mic might be muted.
Yes, I can hear you.
There we go. We have got you. Mark, how are you doing?
I'm doing great, thank you.
Good stuff indeed. An AM win for yourself. I mean, congratulations on that. A really, a dominating race, I think we can probably agree. That's something that we don't necessarily see often, especially in the pre-qualifying rounds, because this is actually giving you probably a really good stead going into round 1. What was that like for you? Was that something that you were expecting to? You were expecting that sort of lead, or were you not quite expecting that big of a lead towards the end?
Well, during practice, myself, Steve Martinez, and Errol, we were all pretty close in time, so I wasn't expecting to pull away as I did. Unfortunately, Errol spun, and that kind of ruined his race on the first lap. And Steven and I had a great battle for a long time, almost until the first pit stop. And then things just sort of went my way, and traffic worked my way, and I was able to keep it clean and not go off track. Hold it all together.
Brilliant. No, good stuff. And the Lamborghini seemed to work really well. I mean, how come, I'm intrigued to know this, and I'm sure Greg is as well, how come the Lamborghini is so popular? Is there something about it that we don't know? Or is that something you've been discussing it with the teams? Like, does it just work particularly well across? Because I'm not doing the Lamborghini for a while, to be perfectly honest.
Yeah, that's a good question. I'm a Porsche diehard at heart.
Really? So you've gone to the dark side?
I did go to the dark side. It was either the Lambo or the BMW. Those two cars seem to be the fastest. And like Tyler was saying earlier, the Porsche and the Lambo off the brakes, they do get really oversteery. So if you can drive them, they're pretty quick. If you're not careful, they're going to bite you.
Well, there we go. It's a bit of inside information there. Interesting stuff. Well, Mark, great to catch you up again. Congratulations on that AM category win. Anyone you'd like to give a shout out to before we let you go?
I'd like to give a shout out to Scott Racing, my son Blake Scott, for keeping me on my toes in this sim racing series. It's a lot of fun racing with my son, and that's about it. Thanks a lot for everyone putting this league on, and for you guys for doing the announcing.
Brilliant, no problem at all. Mark, again, absolute pleasure. Look forward to catching up with you again soon.
Thank you very much. See you next week.
Okay.
All right, there. I was going to say, there you go. That was Mark Scott, our winner tonight in the AM class. And Daniel, I tried getting a hold of our overall winner, Justin Brunner, and unfortunately, he needs his shut eye.
Right,
So
okay.
he's not going to be joining us this evening. But a great opening. I say an opening round, but pre-qualifying round here for the brand new Race Anywhere Transatlantic Championship. A great 75-minute racing, and I'll tell you, if this is the type of action that we're going to see over the 10-round series that starts next week at Daytona, I'm really looking forward to it.
Oh, same here. I just can't wait. I really can't wait. Unfortunately, we're not going to be able to have a chance to chat with everyone. We had so many people in the commentary box.
Yes.
We're not going to be able to have a chance to chat with everyone. But it's something that we will obviously want to be able to rotate with around and chat with people as we go. So again, we will get to everyone throughout the season. So for people that are watching the broadcast, please make sure you still do jump into the interview room, because we'll be keeping a tally of who we speak to and who we can get in, obviously, to make sure that everyone gets a bit of airtime, which is obviously exactly what we want. We want people to come in and get involved, but it is currently for me it's 3:15 in the morning, so it is time for my bed as well, I think, to be honest. But no, honestly,
yes.
that pre-qualifying was just fantastic. I thoroughly enjoyed that. It's just a great point, a great position to come in. It's going to be a great stead going forward as well, and the next 10 rounds are just going to be non-stop, but they're going to be amazing. I genuinely can't wait.
Absolutely, and we have things set up in this league to really, I don't want to say throw a monkey wrench into the works, but to really generate excitement. And one of those big things is that as the season goes on and as drivers start to accumulate points, we're not going to have your traditional qualifying sessions going into these races. We're actually going to be gridding our races based on points accumulated, but we're going to invert them for each class. So if you are our points leader in the pro class, you're going to be starting at the tail end of the pro field, and it's going to make for some great racing, as we're going to have to, you're going to have to find your way. Those points leaders, they're going to have to find their way from the back of the field. The folks that are a little bit further down the order, they have to fight to hold people off. It's going to make for some great, exciting racing over 75 minutes each and every week, and I'm certainly looking forward to it, Daniel. It's going to be a great time.
It is indeed, absolutely. Really can't wait.
All right, so as we mentioned, next week we are going to be kicking things off this 10-week season at Daytona International Raceway. It's going to be the exact same time, going to be next Wednesday night at 8 p.m. And of course, as Daniel mentioned, if you haven't done so already, go and give us a thumbs up. We had a ton of people watching us here tonight on YouTube. And if you haven't done so already, go and subscribe to the Absolute Sim Racing channel. And if you want to find out more about the Race Anywhere Transatlantic Championship, head on over to www.worldseriesleagues.com. And you'll be able to get all the information, not only on this particular league, but other leagues that are run by WSL, and I'm certainly looking forward to next week. So for everybody here, for myself, Greg Ginsburg, for Dan Handover, thank you so much for joining us, and we will see you same time, 8 p.m. Eastern time, next Wednesday night.